Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special live stream here on a Thursday where it's chaos. I just saw John spill a drink right before me. Feel free to do what you need. I'll be in this shot for a minute. You can clean that up. I'm playing solo today, so this is a lot like we had this happen a couple times during the pandemic time streams, whether it was because of snow or someone just happened to be out. There was some personal stuff going on, so I'll just be here. We're going to be looking at some spoilers, kind of, from the upcoming set of Alpha Clash. And originally the plan, I had these two decks built. One was, you don't need to pull these up. If you need to get paper towels or something, you can do your thing.
I think we're okay.
Okay. So I had an Alpha Aster deck built. Can you pull up Alpha Aster really quick? And then I'm going to pause in a second and just see how everyone's doing before I dive in and get lost. When you're doing these solo streams, you can lose yourself. You can use yourself.
The giver of all?
Alpha Aster, the Omnipotent. There it is. So the Rising Empire team revealed this card back at ClashCon late last year. And so this is not new. It's not exactly. That's why I said it's kind of spoilers. We're just really talking about the set. I think there's going to be some cards that haven't been revealed yet, but we'll see. So 30 health. That's pretty standard. He has 0 attack, 1 defense. 1 defense is very annoying. That stats on the bottom left. And then he actually only has 1 ability, and it's always on. Because if he's at 30 life or less, he has this ability. Basically, if the portal's open, he gets +1 attack, +1 defense. So the portal's open, he's got 2 defense and 1 attack, which is nuts. And then also Alpha and Harbinger non-token Clash cards. So Clash cards that are those 2 types that I control that are a certain color gain these different effects. So there's 1 for every color. So Alpha Aster's he was the first. Do you have all the other Alpha Clash cards in the system?
I think so.
So there's an Alpha Aster that was in set 1. It was the legendary. It should have been. I think it's just Alpha Aster. Let's see what you got. What you got. That's him. So he was the big 8 cost, 9/9, no threshold, crazy card from the first set. So thematically / lore wise, he seems very critical, and he almost presents as like a Thanos type character, but even more like he's there at the beginning. I don't know the full story on him, but we'll go back to Alpha Aster, the Omnipotent. So it is someone noting here, Jared saying wall of text. So yeah, this is the hero. This is a lot of text. I agree. But realistically, most decks are going to be 2 colors. So most of this text is blank. So like if you were playing a black-green deck as an example, the black ability says, black Clash cards get trigger enter. You may banish up to 1 card in each player's Oblivion. So every time you play a black Clash card, that thing happens. Same for green, trigger enter. You may put a target card in an Oblivion second from the top of its owner's deck. So every time you play a green card, you can grab a card out of a discard pile and put it as a second card in the controller's deck, which is crazy. So this is like a deck builder's dream because every Clash card is getting an ability printed. He's got crazy stats as long as the portal's open. But I had a deck built for that. And I also had a deck built for the new Clarity contender. So can you pull up, I think she starts on this site, a Clarity Defender of All. And these 2 contenders release in this next set that's coming out. And Clarity is another one of those main characters. In fact, let me actually just grab this. I just realized we had this. I run into that so many times.
Me too.
So this is a booster box of Equilibrium, which is a set that's coming out. And I love the way this box looks. But when I say main character, this is Clarity here on the box. So she's kind of a feature of the set. So Clarity Defender of All, 20 health, which is relatively low. She starts on this side. So this is one of those 2-sided contenders. Can you bring up Clarity Deadly Duelist? So this is on the back side. Now go ahead and flip back to the Defender of All. I'm just running you through the ringer over there. So at 20 health, during your primary phase, you can discard a card from your hand. If you do, flip this card. If this card is flipped this turn, you may not activate this effect. So you can't flip back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. But essentially, you can discard a card to flip to the other side. That's what that's saying. And then it says, whenever you play a non-Clash card for the first time each turn, this contender gains a health. So 1 defense is already annoying. And then every time you play a non-Clash card, so a Clash card being kind of like a unit, you actually just gain health. And then also when you flip to this side, you draw a card. So you lose a card when you're going to the other side, and you gain a card when you come back. At 15 or less life, the first time this contender gains 1 or more health during your turn, you foretell 2 cards, which is look at the top 2, put them on top or bottom in the order of your choice. So let's go ahead and flip over to the Deadly Duelist side. So on the Deadly Duelist side, of course, she's got 2 attack.
Do you know what the art looks like?
It's Clarity Deadly Duelist.
Is the right one? Okay.
Yeah, that one. Right. There's multiple versions. You might have multiple in the art. So on this side, she actually gets 2. On the bottom left, you'll see the 2 attack and the 0 defense. Whenever this contender would take clash damage from a clash card, deal that much damage plus 1 instead. So, wow. 2 attack, and then every time she's taking damage, she takes an extra. So it's kind of risky to end the turn on this side. I'm curious how you flip. So then her 20 health ability, during your primary phase, you can banish a card from your Oblivion if you do flip this card. So that's pretty easy. To go from the basically the white side of the card to the black side, you have to discard a card. And then to flip from this side back, you have to put a card from your discard and banish it permanently. So that's how you kind of naturally fuel your ability to come back from this black side. If you do flip this card, if this card has already flipped this turn, you may not activate this effect. So again, you can't use these abilities to keep going back and forth. Whenever this contender deals clash damage to an opposing contender, you may target a non-clash buff action card in your Oblivion. So when you deal damage to their contender, you have to target anything but a clash buff in your Oblivion. If you do, you may play that action until the start of your next turn. Cards played this way cost 1 less black and 1 less white, and are banished after their effects resolve. Okay. So you basically, it's almost like a card draw that happens, but you have to do damage to their contender to do this. And then she has a 12 health ability. Engage clash card you control can't be sent to Oblivion by opponent's card effects. Now that is very good. So that's Clarity. And the characters, the contenders in this game are hypercritical for giving us relevance to all these cards that are in front of me, which is why I mentioned them specifically. And there are a lot of contenders. They put out usually 7 per set so far, so 5 in the set itself and 2 in the starter. There is so many. It's pretty wild, actually, compared to something like Flesh and Blood, where there's a finite amount of heroes, and then they actually rotate out the heroes over time. So, anywho, before I keep going and talking about Equilibrium, which is set to come out late next month, how's everyone out there doing? I'd love to hear from anyone in the chat who's hanging out, and curious how many people out there have been following along with spoiler season. We technically have I think all of the cards that I could possibly pull up. And I have a selection here of my favorite cards and cards that are notable from the decks that had been built using the new set. And you know what? I think a better option even than my favorite cards, I'm going to call an Audible Live. Make the creative team just very uncomfortable right now.
Okay.
I have a booster box here, so why would I not open some packs and just talk about whatever comes in the packs?
Oh yeah.
I do have. Do you have? Like as an example, do you have Clarity Defender of All full art?
Let's see here.
It would look like this. That one right there. So one of the really cool things that they do is they have this kind of artist series of cards. You'll see the signature there.
Wait, that's Defender of Freedom. Is it?
That's Defender of All.
Oh.
Does it say Defender of Freedom? Oh, we have an old file, I think. Or they printed the wrong file.
Unless maybe we have... Oh no, we need the full art version.
Hey, Jared. Saying working from home today. Love having Covenant stream on while I work. Makes me smile. I'm happy to have you here.
Well, it's the same art, so...
Yeah. So they have these artist series cards. And actually, there's Clarity Deadly Duelist in the same. It's on the back side of this, this is just full art of the character. And in person, can you give me a top down real quick? Look at this. They have gone to a different level on their foiling in this set, which is why I wanted to highlight it. But these full art cards are actually the case toppers, and it's crazy because cases in this game are 12 boxes. These are very not common. And previously, these had been cards that you could have lots of copies of, but I really love this. It's a full art of the double-sided character that you only ever actually need one of. Now, some of these cards, like do you have Major Dean Defender of Freedom in full art specifically. Yeah, there he is.
Full art.
Oh yeah, that's the regular, and then there's the full art. So you could technically have multiple copies of this one, but I just love this clarity in this style. But the foiling is different. They've definitely leveled up here. I think the clarity of the foiling and I don't know exactly how the process works, but the way the foiling's showing up and the way the text is raised and stuff, super clean and looks fantastic. I also happen to know that Major Dean was based off of Ridge's dad. Visually, one of the artists just did that. I think. I don't know if it was planned or not. They were talking about that at ClashCon.
That's a nice homage.
Yeah, it's a nice little touch. So are you cool with me just opening some packs here?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
We'll get you the main cam back.
Okay, there we go. I get nervous. Me opening things on camera has been a series of catastrophes. So I was getting nervous there because it was not opening. All right. So you get a box topper in here. This is do you have Avarice, the iridescent?
Box topper, yes.
Yeah. So first of all, I love dragons. So we're not going to be sad about that. But one of the crazy things about Alpha Clash is they're starting to go back. The TLDR on the theme, right, is every major cataclysmic event in history was really just an Alpha Clash. So the world being flooded, right, or the Ice Age, etc. So they're starting to hint back, and that's where Alpha Aster comes from. And clarity is apparently thousands of years old, etc. But they can do some really strange and crazy things when you have a timeline that spans all of time and all of space. Let me read this comment from Andre saying, super excited for Step 5. Greetings from the Philippines. Clash Grounds Pasay happening this weekend. Let's go. Alpha Clash is apparently huge in the Philippines, which I love. Good luck this weekend. Are you playing this weekend, Andre? And if so, are you willing to tell us what contender you're playing? Yeah, somewhere in Pasay. We talked about this previously on a stream, but they made an announcement a month ago probably about they have this Pasay event and then they have a Vegas event happening next month. Just doing such fascinating and cool stuff on the organized play level. So this is actually the promo you get for going to the event in Pasay. And this Clash Ground is actually in play all weekend long in every game. So it has a massive ability that is really good against Genesis, who won the Pro Tour, and fundamentally just changes the game. It also is the card you get just for going, which is super cool. It's the only way to get it. And of course, it's literally set in the location of wherever the event's happening. So you can picture, like, even during playtesting, you're playtesting with this in play, and then you go to the tournament, you have it in play, and then now you get to keep this thing that is...
That's so cool.
It's very cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of that. Win Serenity saying, I'm going to chase the bounty. So as part of that announcement, they also announced bounties. So there was one hero from each, or a contender for each color, that if you are the highest placing player of that contender, you actually get a really cool full art promo featuring that contender, and then also, I think, a cash prize or something. But I love that, not just top loading the event around winning, like specifically winning the event, but you might literally be 38th place out of 42 and win a bounty because you're the only person brave enough to play a certain contender, which I really love. So we're just going to be hanging out for a little bit. I'm going to open some packs and chatting and talking. You guys have any questions for me, let me know. But let's just dive into some cards and experience it for the first time. I've seen some spoilers, but really not a lot. I was hoping to go into the gameplay with these decks and like be mostly blind. All right. Inside Dr. Reynolds' office. Let's go ahead and pop this card. I'll just read some of these. So it's a red Clash Ground, 3 cost. Of course, has Torque on it. This comes from the Torque comic, which is quite funny.
Whoa.
We all right?
Yeah, we should be okay now.
Hopefully we didn't kill your ears.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. 3 cost, 2 red threshold trigger, enter diminish 3 cards, which is 3 off the top of your deck. Torque cards get +1 attack. When this Clash Round is sent to Oblivion, you may return target Clash buff from your Oblivion to your hand. So if you're playing a heavy Torque deck, +1, and then if they get rid of this, you get a benefit of getting a Clash buff back, which would have been particularly notable in the era where you could play those crazy 0-cost Clash buffs, which are no longer legal to play. So here you go. Cruising along. Oh, are you kidding? This is just first pack magic. This is not fair. I pull up Clarity from the Shadows.
From the Shadows.
This was my rare card in the pack. It's an epic. Look at this art, man.
Oh,
that's super cool.
Is she kind of like is she like the Witchblade?
So she is in this game. There are harbingers, which are the 4 horsemen. That's the icon on the bottom right is a horse. So at some point in her past life, Clarity was actually death. And when she's in all black like this, she is death.
Oh, okay.
She's in her, even the bottom left, you'll see it says death - Avalon. But again, can you even top down real quick? Just look at this foiling. Like, it's so cool what they did.
Oh.
The character is not foil, you see that? And then
really
like
slick.
There's a texture here that is like playing to the card itself. It's hard to even just explain. It reminds me of the crazy foil in the 90s on the comic book cards. You know, it's just like, how do they even do this kind of stuff? But the card is still readable. So let's just bask in this for a second. I think Death, especially Clarity as Death, is like my favorite looking character in the thing. So I love this art. Anyways, 3 cost, 2 black threshold, 2 attack, 2 defense, trigger, defeat, send another target clash card you control to Oblivion. And then during your primary phase, you may engage this card. If you do, send target clash card to Oblivion. Now this is also, do you have the promo version of this?
Let's see. No, I think this is the only one that we got.
Yeah, let me just see real quick. While we're here. Okay, so the promo Clarity is Bad Omen, which we'll come back to later. This is fun. So during
I do have that one.
During your we'll stay on the there it is. Yeah, see. Yeah, we'll come back to that. During your primary phase, you can engage this card if you do send a target clash card to Oblivion. So this is a card you pay 3, engage it, which is tapping, and get rid of one of their cards on the board. If they don't get rid of this, you just get to keep doing that every turn. Like, that's crazy. That is a wild card. Let me see if there's any. So one of the fun things here is that the cards act as sort of story spoilers sometimes. Like, pull up Final Breath. First of all, it's called Final Breath. Second of all,
I don't know if I have.
Don't have it? We're not spoiling it then, but it's got Clarity on it, so I'll let you figure out what that means.
Oh, yeah.
Don't love that. Funny, we have Clarity Good Omen.
Good Omen. Oh.
A 3/3/3, 2 white threshold. Do you have the Good Omen?
I've got Van Omen. I don't have Good Omen.
Fascinating. All right. Carrying on. I'm going to open a new pack because I spoiled the rarest card in the pack. I think a lot of the lower level stuff has been spoiled, so we'll keep moving along. And I'll call stuff out that I think is particularly notable. Do we have Envision?
Envision.
All right, so this is a Clash buff. And sort of like Contenders, a lot of times we'll get 1 Clash buff per color per set. And you can only have 4 copies of any, 4 total Clash buffs in your entire deck. So these are very special cards in Alpha Clash. So I'm just curious to see what it does. 1 cost, 1 threshold. You may only play this card if your contender is Clarity. So it's not a certain color of contender, it's just specifically Clarity can play this. Foretell 2 cards, then choose 1. Target contender loses 2 health and your contender gains 2 health. Target Clash card gets -2 attack until the end of turn. That's pretty crazy. 1 for 4 basically on that first ability. They lose 2, you gain 2. Pretty wild. Wins for saying, do we have a description for Deathblades yet? Do we have Deathblades? Can you pull Deathblades up? About to find out.
It looks like we do not.
All right, no Deathblades. I don't even know if it's in the set. I think that's a card they've shown as like a promo without the text. So I tried for you though. All right, cruising through. We got another clash buff here. Can you get me deflating? This is Death, by the way, which is my favorite character. 1 cost, no threshold. This is a clash buff. You do not have to have threshold to play, but you may only play if your contender is black. Target clash card gets -1/-1 until the end of turn. If you did spend a black to play this card, then the clash card gets an additional -1/-1 until the end of turn. If that card is defeated this turn, draw a card. This card, I'm planning to go to Nationals, which is going to be mid this year. And I'm going to commit now live in front of the whole world to play Death. Period. I'm going to play Death, the character. Can we pull Death up? Do you have Death, the contender? I don't know the subtitle. I should.
Death. I've got From Death to Life, but
no. Okay.
Not a contender.
So I'm going to play Death at Nationals. I'm committing live to it, so you can hold it against me if I don't do it. This card helps so much. So a -2/-2. If they go to 0 life, they get defeated. And so this helps you get rid of things like the 1 cost Torque from the first set that is super, super good still. And beyond, of course, if you do defeat them with this, you get to draw a card. And so if that happens, it's crazy value. And you don't have to necessarily spend a specific threshold to even play this card. But even without that, the ability to give real-time -2 attack and life, there's going to be situations where that's what lets you actually defeat a character in a fight. Or that's if you can make it be an exchange where you kill one of theirs and they don't kill yours because they're -2/-2. That's how you win games.
Is the range of attack and health in Alpha Clash relatively low? Because 2 seems like a lot so far.
So I would say if you pay 5 for something, you would expect the average stat line to be 5. So a 5/5/5 would exist. But if a 5/5/5 had an ability like flight or any other text, it might be like a 4/4 with the text.
Okay.
Or a 4 attack, 5 life. So you start at 0 resources in this game. And a lot of the utility cards are in the like 1 to 3 life range. Even the one of the best cards. Bring back Clarity from the Shadows. This is a good example. This is one of the best cards in the game. I'll just go ahead and put that on the table. So deflating would actually be able to defeat this because this is a 2/2.
Right.
So a lot of the really annoyingly powerful cards are in the, and you see the stat line holds up here, right? So you pay 3 for it, but the stats are 2/2 because the ability is so good.
Right.
But if the ability was blank, you would expect it to be like a 3/3 with like 1 threshold or something.
Deflating being 1 cost for 2 impact. That's pretty good tempo.
Yeah. And it's just very like they banned. There were originally 0 cost clash buffs in set 1 for every color that gave +2/+2 and you drew a card. So it was so hard for any of the other clash buffs to see play because 0 is so much cheaper than 1. Like infinite.
Yeah.
Like 1 cost infinitely more than 0, right? You can't multiply 0 by anything to ever get to 1. And so the fact that this is essentially a 2/2 stat combination, right? It's minus though, so it's getting at them, but it's a 2/2 that has the potential to draw a card. But this is clearly it's you can see why the 0 cost clash buffs were such a problem because if this costs 1, if you could pay 0 instead for +2/+2, you can get the same effect where it's kind of an inverse of the old ones because previously, you attack, I block, you don't play a clash buff, I do to go +2/+2. All of a sudden, you get defeated and I don't. This can do the same thing. It's just going to cost you 1 to do it. And it's important to say the card draw text at the bottom says if that card is defeated this turn, draw a card. So if you attack, let's say with a 5/5, and I block with a 3/3, or let's even better, I block with a 4/4. Normally, your attack of 5 would defeat my character, and your character would stay on the board. So if I play this instead, you go down to 3/3. You only do 3 to me, I deal 4 back. So you get defeated, I don't, and I draw a card back from that last line of text. Anywho, it's very good. Andre saying, waiting and hoping for war support. Corlash, what's up, Derek? Saying, hey, here late, just got back from the interview. Hope it went well. I assume it was a job interview. Saying he can't wait for the next set to drop. Let's just see. I am trying not to just call out any card with death on it. Can you pull up Conquest Unrelenting? 1 cost, 1 threshold, 0 attack, 2 defense. Once per turn during your primary phase, if the portal's open, you may ready this card. So if the portal's open on your turn, you can ready. It's interesting because he only has defense stat. If he even had 1 attack here, it would be really good because you could swing for 1, and then if the portal's open, you ready him, swing for 1 again, or just have a defender standing. So I'm not sure. I know Conquest has tools to make use of this, but that one sticks out. But this is an example of, it's like a 2 health card, right? So that Clash buff we were talking about earlier would get him. Andre, if I open any good red cards that look like they're war favorite, I'll definitely call it out. Some cool stuff. Let's see. See, I like this. I like that they're still at a point where this is a card they can print. Alpha Aster, Colossal Combatant.
I don't know that we have that.
All right, you can just see top down me, and you can see it. So there's no game text. It's just art. He's 4 cost, 2 blue threshold, 4 attack, 5 life. And when I say they can still print this, it means that they're just printing fundies cards. And I love that when there isn't text, they just remove the text box. Like it's just full art going on. Let's read this one, Grand Academia. Let's see if you have that.
I do not.
Fascinating. All right, we'll carry on. Danny Goodnight, how's limited play out? Is it easy to make a deck from packs, or is it highly pool dependent? I'll take those questions in turn. So how does limited play out? Presently, they, like for these sets, like I went to Clash Grounds Vegas last year, where Clash Grounds was premiering the set. And we basically got a sealed pool of 10 packs. So these are 10 card packs, compared to most traditional TCGs have like 15. But that was one of the most fun times I've had playing Alpha Clash. I think Limited is just by default my favorite way to play card games, because it is so typically fundamental and true to how it felt when you first played the game.
Yeah.
And it's just the lowest barrier of entry for anyone to play and all that kind of stuff. But then the second one, how easy is it to make a deck from packs, or is it highly pool dependent? So I think it's similar to most card games where, you know, if you buy 2 boxes of a set, you're probably going to have a play set of the commons and rares. And then you won't have a play set of the, basically above rare is epic. And those are kind of standard cards. And then above epic is legendary. And legendary, there's only 2 different ones of those in the set. And they're typically not, like I'm looking at the ones from this set here, and we'll talk about them in a second. They're very specific cards for very specific decks. So you never need more than one of, making sure that's true on these new ones. They all have the unrivaled keyword so far, which means you're going to play 1 in your deck anyway. Like 1 period. From any of them, you get 1. And 1 copy only. So we can pull one up, like Clarity's Warhammer. Break a text. Yeah, but that unrivaled keyword up top. But you would literally only play this, like it says, this can only be attached to a specific kind of card. So I would never is a strong word. These are the rogue decks. So I don't know that I would ever play a deck that would play this card, and not because I don't love the hammer. I actually do love this hammer. It reminds me of an old Spoils card that was one of my favorites. But that's not really necessary. So like, Flesh and Blood had the legendary equipment, and if you were going to play Ninja, you kind of needed the top end Ninja equipment if you were going to actually go play in a tournament. It doesn't really function nearly like that in Alpha Clash, and the comparable prices and stuff of singles is also way lower. But all that to say, you probably, if you bought a couple packs, you could definitely build decks and play. But I don't know how many you'd have to buy to get all the epic cards, but it probably like 6 or something from every set. But I don't know anyone that approaches it that way, if that makes sense. So normally it's buy a couple boxes, get your base, and then spend $30 on singles to actually build the deck that you want or whatever it is.
Do you find it holds true that like a limited format changes the way you evaluate cards?
For sure. There are a lot of cards that probably, it's just like every game, right? In Constructed, a card has to serve a very, very specific purpose because you have choice. And they do a good job of making a lot of the cards Constructed playable, for sure. But in Limited, you just have to play with what you have.
Right.
So even that Alpha Aster I was talking about being happy they could still print, the text boxless Alpha Aster, that's relevant because there's probably not a blue card that has this stat line. So if you're looking for a 4-cost card with a 5 health so it doesn't die to certain specific cards, this might be your card. But also, there are typically reasons to play cards with certain names. So like we saw that location earlier that said Torque cards get +1. And so because it's an Alpha Aster specifically, you have cards that can only be played on out, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, that's more or less how it works. Like I think there's like 4 to 6 epics in a box, and there's, the epics that you play you usually want the playset of in your deck. So it's not even expected that you would open enough boxes to get it, but that you'll trade or buy singles to find the very particular things you're after. Wins for any said, I want to play Clarity version 2. Feels like another Magnate version 2. Yeah, I love that second Magnate. I just love the very offensive base characters. That's the actual truth. But the new Clarity has that downside where she gets smacked quickly if you're not careful. Let's pull this card up. From Life to Death. This was in this pack I just opened. It's an epic. Look at that. This is Clarity again. Weird, I have a theme that Clarity's in the set, so you can't blame me. You may reduce this is black card, 5 cost, 4 threshold. That is a lot. So that means you have to spend 4 black resources out of your 5 to be able to play this card, which means you're heavy into black if you're playing it, unless we read the text. You may reduce the health of your contender by up to 4. If you do, reduce the cost of this card by 1 black for each health reduced this way. So you could lose 4 life to play this for 1 of any color.
Wow.
But 4 life, most contenders have like 25 to 30 health. You're spending like 1/7 of your health to play this at that big of a discount, but let's see if the ability is worth it. Counter attack. This is a quick action, so you can play it when your opponent attacks you. And it's like at that moment. Send target clash card with an initial resource cost of 5 or less that you do not control to Oblivion. Then banish this card. So a few things on that. First of all, this card is bonkers. You can lose 4 life. All right, so picture this. Your opponent is attacking you for 6 with a character. Instead of taking 6 and them having a card on the board, you lose 4, you get rid of them, and then this goes to your banish zone. This card will see play, but it's also devastating because in the tight late game moments, you're going to not have a lot of life left, and you're going to want to be able to discount this, and you won't be able to do it. But still, even in the late game, there are a lot of these scenarios where you have like 8 or 9 resources, and you're kind of top decking at the end. Not all the time. If things went well, you're not. Or if your name's Michael Hamilton, you're not. But 5 to just remove something, and again, there is a restriction. I'm happy they printed that it has to cost 5 or less. Because you get in those scenarios, they play like an 8 cost, like the Alpha Aster big guy we saw earlier. Be able to just toss it in the bin with this card, but it being a quick action is very good. Instead of a trap, you don't have to set it. And again, it just look at this thing. Can you go top down? Look at this foiling. It does so much for the art.
Looks like they also have a gold version.
Oh, yeah. Let me see if I have the gold version.
I think we've gotten card pops at least.
I do have this from beginning to end in gold. So they do these like gold foiling versions, and they look very nice.
That's so cool.
Andre saying from step 5, I want to play Avenging Guy. The new distract mechanic looks fun. Avenging Guy is hilarious.
Avenging Guy.
There's probably a lot of different named Avenging Guys.
Yeah.
I think I have the. Let me find the card, and it'll make your life easier.
I've got a baseline Avenging Guy. Trying to help, doing something. Oh, the distractor. That's probably it.
That is one of the cards. I think it's just got a. Let me read them. So 4 cost, interception, trigger attack, non-token clash card you control get +1/+1 until the end of turn. Card must be obstructed. That's cool. So must obstruct. That's gonna be annoying. Here he is, Avenging Guy, LARPing expert.
Oh. I love it.
Yeah, there's a comedic element here because this is just ultimately an indie card game or an indie comic book universe, right? Like, and this Avenger Guy to me is such a perfect play on the feel of the universe that they're trying to create here. This is just a wannabe Hawkeye, right? Like literally, he wants to be. He's a LARPing expert. Like it's so funny. Anyways, 1 attack. Let's just read him. 25, so he starts with this ability. During your primary phase, you can engage this contender. If you do, distract target, ready, clash card you don't control. If you control a clash ground, that clash card gets -2 attack until the end of turn. Distract means that clash card cannot obstruct the next attack this turn. So you can engage him, choose something that can't obstruct, and if you have a clash ground, you can also give something that clash card gets -2 until the end of turn. That's hilarious. And then at 15, if the contender has a weapon attached to it, your clash cards get +1 attack. That is very powerful in the end. All right. Can you pull up Amplifier for me? Win Serenity asking if I know the pull rates for the X-ray cards. So that's another type of card. Did I bring one?
I cannot pull up Amplifier.
Okay. X-ray cards are really cool looking. They're very different. I have no idea how. It's sort of like the gold cards. I don't know the drop rates of that stuff, and I don't think they post them either. What about Cowling Protector?
No, unfortunately.
You got the Nova token? I like that they do this. They keep printing new art on the tokens that we've had in previous sets.
I've got a bajillion cards with Nova.
It should just be Nova, straight up. Relic token. Looks like this. It's not a big deal if you can't do it. Danny, good night. I found a game store locally. There's an Alpha Clash hub in my area. I'm thinking of coming down. That's it. Coming down to try a sealed game, even though I don't know anything yet. You definitely should. The community for this has been fantastic, and I'm sure they would love to have you. Really, really easy game to get into, and just some lovely people who are engaging with it. All right, one more pack, and then I'll look through, and we'll cover the legendaries and stuff before we get out of here. If you have any questions, Danny, let me know. All right, can you pull up Creation casually? There he is. So this is a Clash buff that costs X. We'll find out what that means in a second. You may only play this if your contender is Alpha Aster. Up to 1 resource of each color may be used to play this card. So there's 5 colors. If you had 5 colors of resources in play, you could technically pay 5 for this, basically. Till the end of turn, target clash card you control gets +X/+X. So if you pay 3 with 3 different colors, it gets +3/+3. And trigger victory. Return a clash card with an initial resource cost less than or equal to the initial cost of this clash card from your Oblivion to your hand. So if you paid 3, it's +3/+3, and return a 3 cost or less to your hand from your discard pile. And then if X is greater than 1, so as long as it was 2, you draw a card. So if you pay 2 for this, you get +2/+2, draw a card. This is already seeming good. And then whatever you get +2 gets this trigger where you can potentially get a card back. So if it does trigger, and if it's a clash buff, you're probably playing it when you know it's going to trigger. This is actually crazy because the math I was saying earlier about a -2/-2 applies here. So if you pay 2, you get +2/+2, which might mean that I defeat your card and you don't defeat mine. Already good. You draw a card, definitely. And then if I do defeat your card from that, then I'm going to get another card back from my discard pile. So it turns into draw 2, which is nuts. And so crazy, there's actually a previous blue clash buff that pays 1 and you get to draw 2 from it. I think it's you give -2 attack to all your opponent's characters and you draw 2.
Wow.
For the round, it's -2. So this is a clever way of being in that category. Like it's almost as good. And it has a higher top end because you could pay 4 and give something +4/+4, which might be enough to defeat your opponent's contender or to kill a specific card or to get a certain card from your, it's like you choose the card coming from your discard pile instead of drawing randomly. But this is like approaching the ballpark. I could see a case being made for playing this over augmented reality is the previous one. It has a problem. So it's the first one, which is yours get +2, and then that player draws 2 cards. So you choose someone's character, so I'll get +2 defense, and I'll tell you which one you're choosing yourself. That player also draws 2 cards. Or they can all get -2, and then you don't choose that one. You choose the first one. But this reminds me a little bit of the zero-cost clash buffs because it's so good. For them to make a blue clash buff that you would play, but is not just strictly better, is a hard area to be designing in. So, anywho. All right, before we conclude here, and if you have any specific, if you're out there and you have any specific cards you think are worth mentioning or looking at, holler in the chat now, and we'll pull them up. But otherwise, pull up Clarity's Warhammer again. Let's just look at this. These are the fancy beats. And go top down for a second on me as well. I just want to show this foiling. It's hard. I can't even explain what it looks like in person. It's impossible. All right, so it's unrivaled. You can only play 1 in your deck. Only 1 unrivaled card, period, not just of this card. Trigger, enter. Target contender gains 4 health. So when you play this, you just immediately gain 4. We're off to a good start. You can also attach it by sending a clash card you control to Oblivion. You may only do this once per turn. So another card you have in play, you put in your discard pile and you attach this to something. Then the attached clash card gains trigger attack. When they attack, they get +2/+2. And if the attached character deals clash damage to an opponent's contender, the next action card you play this turn with initial resource cost of 3 or less may be played as though it costs 0. So attack, +2/+2. Next card costs 0 if you do damage to their contender. At the end of your turn, ready the attached clash card. So you attack, end of the turn, it readies, which is phenomenal. It's crazy. This card can only be attached to, I believe it's the rogue symbol. I just don't play them, so I'm never too worried about it. This is like Haven and Clarity and stuff. If this card enters Oblivion from any area, shuffle it back into your deck instead. That's a good card. Next, we have Lord Krung the Barbarous. You can pull either version. There's 2 different versions. There's the legendary and there's the like alternate art one that is Crazy Town. There it is. That's the standard. So this is a 4-cost blue-black card. So when it's split like that, it means if it's in your resource zone, when you tap it to spend it, you can treat it as either black or blue, not both. So that's already very good. It costs 2 black threshold, 1 blue, so you have to be on a black-blue deck to even want to be playing this card. It has ambush and unrivaled. Unrivaled mean the once per effect. And then it has counter, play, attack. You may pay 3 black. If you do, put this card into play from your accessory zone. So when your opponent plays a card or attacks, you can pay 3 black to play this from your accessory zone. And that ambush just lets it be a trap, basically. So it's down, and then it sneaks in. Trigger, enter. Send target engage clash card to Oblivion. So a tapped card you can just send to Oblivion when he comes into play. If it had initial resource cost of 4 or more, you can put a discarded clash card with an initial resource cost of 2 or less from your Oblivion into play. Clash card you control with ambush may be activated from the accessory zone as though the portal were open. Now that is why we're playing this card. I'll come back to that in a second. If this card is sent to Oblivion from the accessory zone, shuffle this back into your deck instead. Then target player discards a card. Also good. So if they do something like discard a trap, it's not going to get this guy, is essentially what that's saying. And they're going to discard because of it. But the reason that you play this card is that, in my humble opinion, is Clash card you control with ambush may be activated from the accessory zone as though the portal were open. So Krung and the discarded a lot of times, as you can imagine, want to be played from the discard pile, but also they have a lot of traps. So they have ambush, they sneak in, and one really common just sort of macro level strategy against him is if he has resources open, don't do anything. Don't play anything, like don't attack, do the minimal things that you can do to just not let him play his traps. And then that's one of the kind of friction points with traps is you have to play them on your turn face down in a trap zone. So you signal to your opponent you have it. And then if I pass the turn to you and I didn't do anything, I just have 5 resources open, or in this case 4, because you know this guy can be played for 4. I can only play him, it says play when my opponent plays or attacks. So if I don't play anything or attack, it goes back to my opponent, they can play a resource. And now if they spend their resources, I'm willing to do stuff on my turn. But if they don't spend their resources, they just took a blank turn. So I'll take a blank turn too and just wait. So anyways, this is cat and mouse game. But this in particular, another part of it is a lot of the stuff either can't be played or specifically is way better when the portal is open. So your opponent a lot of times, because all these traps happen on your opponent's turn most of the time. Yeah, that's the...
I just wanted to see what the crazy art looked like.
Yeah, that is the... And it's hard. The like texturing on the background makes it look like flames and like it looks in the art, but it's different in person. You just have to... I wish I could explain it. Anywho, so the part of... There's just a lot of restrictions on these traps and this way of playing because your opponent goes, the first thing they do a lot of times is pay 2 and close the portal. So then some of your most devastating things you can do to them, you can't even do anymore. And if you have resources open, they may just close the portal and pass, or they may close the portal and go because they know there's certain things you can't do. But when he's in play, the portal is open for that intent. And that is something I think is going to help those decks immensely. So anyhow, that's my thank you for coming to my TED Talk about Lord Krung, and have a good time. And another thing I just want to highlight: do you have Solar Smash in there?
I do.
Andre is saying a lot of us here in the Philippines are waiting for Krung Nation. Yeah, we started calling the discarded the Monstars, like from Space Jam. Because there's this ragtag, tons of different like alien looking things. Anyways, so this is the original Solar Smash from the first set. One thing they're doing that I really love is they are reprinting some pretty commonly used lower rarity cards in the set with different art. So like I have this Solar Smash here from this set, and it's actually got Torque in the more comic book style of art, but it's the same card, like same card effect. So people earlier when you were asking Danny about getting into the game, this is one way that they're attempting to kind of lower the barrier where you don't have to buy boxes from as many sets to get some of these. Like Solar Smash often ends up in decks in like 2 copies in red decks. And so if this is the one card you needed to go get from set 1, you don't necessarily want to have to go buy the booster boxes to get that. And it doesn't really affect anything else. But and then in the meantime, you get choice, right? So when you're building your deck and collecting, which of these arts do you like better? Do you like Torque or do you like Flare, etc.? So, anywho. When saying you need to remove that Krung so fast and accessories to shuffle it back, yeah, you got to just get rid of them very, very quickly. That is a brief jaunt and look at Equilibrium, which is set to come out in late March. If you don't have a subscription for this yet, you should. If you're unfamiliar with that system, you sign up. You don't pay until we get close to release. We charge you. We ship boxes to you. There's free shipping at a certain level. Each box we send to our subscription service comes with an Alt-Art exclusive promo. If you can, go ahead and pull up Clarity Bad Omen. So every box of Equilibrium that we send through our subscription service will come with one of these cards, which will be foil, and it will look awesome. This is a 2-cost, 2 black threshold, 2 attack, 3 life, which is important. Exclusive, which means you can only have one of these in play at a time. You can have multiple in the deck, but only one in play. If an effect an opponent controls would have them draw a card outside of the draw step, so you draw at the start of your turn, If they would draw outside of that, that player may only draw that card if they engage one resource of any color. See, some of those cards I was talking about earlier, like creation being so good because maybe you can draw 2 cards off of it, kind of. Or, what was it, deflating?
Yeah, I think deflating had a card draw.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it was the name of it. So deflating, the clash buff, has a card draw effect. So normally that's super good, but if I have to pay an extra resource just to be able to do the card draw, that is huge. And the fact that this is a 2 cost with a stat line of 2/3. Remember earlier from my math, they layer in the costing on this in a really unique way, because normally a 2 cost you expect to be a 2/2 without an ability, right? That's like the baseline. Oh, that's a good question. I'm going to get to that in a second. So a 2 cost would be a 2/2 without an ability. And so you get a third health, and you get a static effect that's really powerful. So how in the world is that costed correctly? So there's 2 things going on here. One is exclusive, which means you can only have 1 in play at a time. That's important because if you run 4 copies, then you play 1, you draw the second one, you have a dead card because you can't play it until this one leaves play. Second thing is 2 threshold. So a 2 cost at 2 threshold means to play this when you have normally what happens is you play 1 resource a turn, right? Unless somewhere in Vegas or somewhere in Passe are on the table, and then maybe you play multiple resources in a turn. But you play 1 a turn. So turn 1 you play a resource, turn 2 you play a resource for 2, turn 3, 3. And so this card, to play it on turn 2 with 2 resources and maximize that turn, you have to have played 2 black resources up front. So it is rewarding you for being very heavy black deck, or you just have to wait till later in the game when you have maybe 4 or 5 resources out and a couple of them are black. But even then, to play a black card, you have to spend a black resource. So if 3 of your 5 are black resources in play, to play this, you're spending 2 of your 3. So suddenly you can only maybe play 1 more black card, right? So exclusive plus the double threshold is in its own cost. But even then, this is a little like if the average 2 cost is a 2/2 with no text and let's say 0 threshold. So then it's like 1 threshold means we can add a little bit of heat, 2 thresholds move a little more, exclusive means we can go a little further. I still think this one is above the value curve. So if cards are supposed to be worth 5 out of 10, this is like an 8.
I'm guessing you also have other mechanics to kind of like slow your opponent down a little bit. It seems like that's what this card is leaning towards.
Yeah. Well, and just having a static can't draw. In a card game, card draw is very good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can imagine this in almost any card game you've ever played. If your opponent had to pay a resource, picture sorcery. To draw outside of the first draw thing, if you had to pay a resource, even with like sorcerer or is that what the avatar is called? Sorcerer. Yeah. The baseline generic tap to draw. Anywho, Wind asking me, in my opinion, what's the best contender for set 5? Best contender. The best contender, and I hate that I'm going to say this, is probably Paul. Can you pull Paul up? You're going to love Paul, John. I have a feeling this is going to be your kind of...
Helping out.
Paul the Waiter.
Paul the Waiter. Oh, I already like him by the name.
Yeah. So, yeah. Paul,
I love Paul.
Paul is a hilarious character in the story. But essentially, my just heuristic for quickly evaluating the goodness of a contender is, let me find it really quick. So if you look in the I guess technically be the third paragraph, the paragraph that starts trigger obstruct. You see that paragraph? Mm-hmm. If you look at the last 4 words, it says, then draw that card. So if a contender has the word draw a card, we're talking about card draw, right? If a contender has the word draw a card on it, it is already in like a certain tier. So that alone probably gets us into this is what I would consider a viable thing as compared to, can you pull up that Avenging guy, LARPing expert?
That's such a great name.
Yeah. So during your primary phase, you can engage. Blah, blah. Let me see. Yeah. See, it doesn't say draw a card anywhere. See what I'm saying? Who knows? Avenging guy might actually be very good, but again, as a heuristic, just a very quick assessment of something. Then the ability to draw a card is like crazy. So pull Paul the Waiter back up. Yeah, that's exactly right. So Andre is saying a contender that obstructs, that's crazy. Yes. So then he has a few things. This contender can obstruct. Great. As long as you control and engage clash cards, there's a mistap. This card may not be the target of the first declared attack on opponent's turn. So this is your contender, right? So if you have an engaged clash card, just put this Krung out here. As long as that is true, they cannot just attack your contender first. So there's so many scenarios where, let me just set up a fake situation for you, where I have someone out that's, tapped or engaged. They play a card. Now, normally, when this happens, they could just attack my contender straight up, and I can't do anything because everything's tapped. But Paul's ability says, actually, I have to attack here first because that's what's tapped. So he could literally just swing with some 1/1 token, right, that he doesn't care about. And now you can't attack him first. So that's super, super annoying. To make it even more annoying, he's got 1 defense. You see that stat on the bottom left. So every time you attack him, you just do 1 less damage. But then it keeps going. Trigger obstruct. Reveal the top card of your deck. If it is a non-trap accessory, prevent the next 2 damage that would be dealt to this contender this turn. So if you reveal the top card of your deck and it's an accessory that is not a trap, that language is confusing, but it's an accessory that's not a trap, you prevent the next 2 damage you would take this turn. He's already got 1 defense. So you flip the top card, and if it's accessory, -3. Great. And you can't even attack him first anyway. You have to attack, you have to attack something else first.
It's already so annoying.
Yeah. Then it says, otherwise prevent the next 1 damage that would be dealt to this contender this turn. Then draw that card. So you flip the top card, and it's either an accessory, so you're going to prevent 2, or at worst, you're preventing 1 and drawing. So when he obstructs, you can't attack him first. Let's say you do attack this thing. Now, normally your contender can't block for your clash cards, but he has obstruct. So you can't attack him. You have to attack something else. Then he gets to block. Suddenly he blocks. You reveal the top card of your deck, and you prevent 1 or 2 extra damage, plus he has 1 defense, plus he gets to draw a card. It's just obnoxious. And normally, like early game, sometimes you won't have a 1 or a 2 cost, and your opponent has a 2 cost. So you play the 2 cost, and if your opponent doesn't have anything out, everything in this game is haste, so you can attack with it immediately. You just swing and punch them. But now, if you swing, he has defense, first of all. If they have anything on the board, he'll obstruct, and he'll prevent all the damage you're going to do and draw a card, so you can't even do that. He's just obnoxious. And then, we're not done. At 12 health or less, during your primary phase, you may engage this card. If you do, attach a weapon you control with an initial resource cost of 4 or less to an alpha hunter or a rogue clash card you control without paying its attached cost. So I don't think that might matter. I don't think it matters that much. There might be specific cards that are going to use that. But yeah, Paul to me he's an obnoxious card to have to play against. It is a little, I don't want to say strange. Strange is not the right word. It's peculiar that he's red. A lot of the red stuff is direct damage or aggressive. So I don't know if there's going to be a package of red cards that slowly comes out or comes out and start. Him and Avenging Guy are actually the starter deck this set. So you buy that deck, they play against each other. But if this is a signal that black is going to get more defensive tools, I would be surprised. But you can obviously pair him with defensive color, like red plus thing, and you don't have to play any red cards in his deck, actually. Like that's just it's contender color. So the only thing that really forces your hand on typically is the clash buff. That it'll often say you can't play this unless your contender's red, and then it'll cost and it'll have threshold, so you want to play red to play that card. But you definitely don't have to. Like there was a Genesis deck at the Pro Tour that did well, that I think didn't play blue at all. And blue is his color, and like that's the class. But it was just like I'm just going to play these 2 other colors or whatever.
If you're able to hold your opponent to only 1 card with Paul, does that mean you can't attack at all?
So
you can't target him with the first if you've only got 1 thing to attack with.
So you can't target him, but to have that ability online, you have to have a tapped or engaged card in play.
Oh,
so they can, you can attack anything. You can attack your opponent's contender, and you can attack anything that's engaged. So if I am not engaged with a character, you can't actually typically attack them directly. So the cost of attacking on my turn is that now they're vulnerable to being attacked. And typically you can't block with your contender like you can. But yes, if you only have 1 thing in play and I keep having something tapped out, particularly if it's like bigger than the thing that you have in play, you just sit there and look at me.
Paul plus a lot of direct damage sounds really irritating. That's
really the trick. I think he'll end up being like a red plus green or blue deck if I had to guess. And it'll be a control package. Maybe black would work too. But a control package, and then the red cards he plays is going to be like his clash buff, and then just direct damage.
Yeah.
So he's not going to die, and he's going to give himself time to just like, here's 4, here's 4, here's 4, here's 4. And he'll just play the most annoying units you can picture, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, my vote's Paul. I could be wrong on that. Andre saying, well, that's annoying and hilarious. Yeah. We'll see. But if I had to bet, it would be Paul. But at the same time, one of the things I love about the organized play direction they're taking is you have that Clash Crown that is in play all weekend. So event to event, I think it will change very dynamically what contenders and cards are even viable, which is one of the raddest things a game like this could do. For me, especially, you're a smaller game, you have these 3 or 4 big events a year, and having something that acts as both the kind of participation, commemorative, promo card, but fundamentally creates a different environment regardless of did a new set come out or did anything get banned. It's just a different environment every time. I adore that. I'm a huge fan of that. And the same with the bounties, where I'm already committing to playing Death. I just hope Death is one of the bounty characters at Nationals, because then I get a double dip and play a bad deck and get rewarded for it. And I love that vibe. All right, we're gonna get out of here. Thank you guys so much for being here. Sorry we didn't get any gameplay in. Sometimes life comes at you. This stream was a sheer determination play, because it was supposed to happen last week, and then we got wrecked by snow. And then we had plans this week. We launched our Lancelot playmat for Sorcery on Tuesday, so we were going to stream Sorcery on Wednesday. And next week we have something special cooking too for the Wednesday stream. So if we wanted to get this in before the set actually came out, it was now or never, and here we are. So I appreciate you humoring me and being here with me when I'm flying solo. I know it's a bit different, but love having you here, and hope to see you guys in the Discord chatting about Alpha Clash. We'll see you soon.